Thobela. Mshato moholo dumelang. Sanibonani, ninjani. Abusheni reperile. My name is Thau Haramanuba on Unpopular Opinion, representing Bantu Soul Society. Speaking about neo-African culture and neo-colonialism. That neo-colonialism produced neo-African culture, which is basically new African culture. This neo-African culture, it's simply saying that there is no way we are going back to wearing skins. There is no way that we are going back to a traditional African society as it was. We are living in the modern times. So for those who like to say, you people are decolonizing, I talk about Africanism, Pan-Africanism, Ubuntu, African culture, but you are articulating all of these things in English. It is for the benefit of the African global village that we have become, where we have the Africans in Africa and the Africans in the African diaspora. But it is also within the context of even people of the same country, like in South Africa here. We have about 12 official languages now, after they included the sign language. But if I am going to articulate something in my mother tongue, how many people are going to be able to hear that, as opposed to if I articulate it in the current language of convenient communication, which is English? As I did remark earlier, that there's an interesting phenomena that happened during the June 16 uprising, that you will find people who were opposing, or the student of 1976 who were opposing Afrikaans as an oppressive language, while holding on placards written in English, as if English is a less of an oppressive language. And when you think of it, Africans only oppressed people here in South Africa and in Namibia. And its speakers maybe went a little bit bomb countries like Mozambique, Botswana, and so forth. But when you speak of English and its colonization of the world, we made a point that there is every 6 days there is a country in the world that is celebrating its independence from Britain and from the English. But it doesn't change them from using the language English as the language of their communication. The only problem is when we allow the colonial trappings of the language. Like, for one, most of us were educated to believe that if you speak a perfect English is a mark of intelligence, which is basically just a linguistic prowess than mark of intelligence. And therefore we'll be trying to okkomelana in terms of who's speaking English better when it is none of us mother tongue. But also studies found that even, I think it's the Western Cape, University of Western Cape came up with some studies that most of the teachers who are teaching the indigenous language, they themselves don't even know how to speak the indigenous language properly. So this neo-African culture call us into reflection, that we reflect the society we are living in, but we reflect ourselves in a broader context of we're dealing with a global village. Like, for instance, Unpopular Opinion is a global phenomena. It's an international phenomena. I know people who watch it from America, everywhere else. But if I'm going to come here to sound ultra-African and only speak in my mother tongue, we're depriving those people who have formed part of our global village the opportunity to get to hear what is it that we are communicating. And considering that they did not make a choice to be out there and to forget their language. Actually, it was a result of transatlantic slave trade, where they were taken forcefully from Africa, they were beaten to forget their culture, they were beaten to forget their identity, they were beaten to forget their language. So it is always important that when we are in these positions and platform of privilege, we demonstrate great humility to one another, humbleness, and the humbleness to always accommodate others. Don't say that because I'm dealing with African culture, I'm going to stick to my own language and my own ethnic group. Then that is what they call tribalism. You are not being Pan-Africanist, because Pan-Africanism is to taking into consideration all Africa, at home and abroad. We say Cape to Cairo, Morocco to Madagascar. Africa is for Africans, those at home and abroad. So things we are doing today within the context of Neo-African culture, they're done from a Pan-Africanist point of view. They're always done to accommodate other Africans. As I've mentioned, that Pan-African platforms like Unpopular Opinion are designed to accommodate the African world at home and abroad, that everyone can be able to link, because we're dealing with decolonization, we're dealing with the return to the roots, and nothing stopped us from leading the process of returning to our roots using the English language. Actually, we have seen so many results, even coming from this particular platform. I've met people say, first time, ever since I listened to you, I've been serious in my Africanness, I've been meticulous as to how I deal with my fellow Africans. The principles of Ubuntu are still instillable. We can still instill Ubuntu even using this particular medium. It's just a medium of communication. And communication is just to communicate one value system to the other through the most humblest way we can. So there's no point where we're using this medium of communication and these platforms that it compromises. You hear people say, you always complain about white people, but you are in a social media made by white people. TikTok is made by the Chinese. They were also colonized, cameras and video and laptops and cell phones are made by Indians and Chinese who don't even speak English and who don't even need to speak English to make a camera, But we are told that we need to speak a perfect English, and in the process of speaking that perfect English, we feel like we can't say other things because these things, they come from the area of English-speaking people. It's a misnomer. It's a misnomer that industrial civilization is a domain of the Europeans, while at the same time we still can point out to you, like for instance, why the Congo is destabilized. If the Congo shut down everything, the cobalt, whatever, there will be no cell phones, there will be nothing that is working, that is now keeping the world running now. And that is why there are so much rebel groups, there's so much destabilization, there's so much genocide going on, because they want what Congo have as much as they want what Africa have, but they don't want to pay for it. They want it for free. So therefore, in our process of decolonization, we must not be limited by the language that we're using to decolonize. We must not be limited by the mediums that we're using to express ourselves. I was on Facebook putting a lot of fire. Facebook kicked me out for the past 5 months. I can't go back, and I understand why. Because the content that I was putting there, I understand that Facebook were not created for people like me and you to talk about colonialism and what. Created for white kids to wake up in the morning and say, I'm hungry. While they're sitting in there, you are sitting in the dining room complaining about hunger, you can just walk to the kitchen. It's the things for the snobs and cheese girls and model seats. But then we get into that space and we radicalize the space, and when we decolonize, because we understand that all medium were used for our colonization and all medium are used for our colonization. So we must use all medium to decolonize. TikTok, Facebook, social media must be used for social awakening. We must not use it for all of these things. We are the only people who come up with a new challenge on social media platform. New challenge, Now we're even doing Spider-Man. You understand? Like, doing so much nonsensical challenges. We should use social media for social awakening. We should use all of these things: the camera, the laptop, the phone, the palm top that is in our palm, to decolonize. And in that process, we must always show love and humility to one another as Black people, because we come from the greatest oppression. All classes of Black people are servants of the Europeans. It will be a hobo in the street there. In our traditional African society, we never had hobos. Hobos are product of colonialism. We never have Nyaope addicts. They are product of colonialism. We never had all of these classes like middle class, lower class, and all of upper class. We never had that. They are all product of colonialism. But you must remember that even if you are a Black man with a PhD, white supremacy racism has taught even a white hobo to think that is better than the greatest Black man ever. The white hobo thinks is better than your greatest president, because for him, he is still a Black president. That's what it is. So we must be humble to one another. and don't allow any of these things that we're using to define our decolonization space to define us. We must always show respect and consideration to one another and understand that we are coming from great tribulation, we're coming from a great trauma, and we need to hold each other's hand in doing that. Unpopular opinion, Thau Haramanuba, and the civil society, here there, all of us, give thanks.